Welcome back to the channel. Very, very special episode. The podcast tonight. You know what? So many people have been in touch, so much Twitter, so much Facebook activity. Thought we have to do something. Probably the most controversial incident in Premier League history for me. There has been some certain, situations over the years, but now the VAR's come on. It's supposed to eradicate these kind of things happening. Mates, before I get into it, how are you feeling being on the wrong end of possibly the most controversial incident in football?
I wish it wasn't Liverpool. I wish it was somebody else, to tell you the truth. This was always going to happen. I didn't actually think that this could possibly happen, where they could get this exact decision wrong. But there's always been controversial moments throughout the last couple of years, especially this season. There's been so many offsides, people thinking that that's not offside. So to be in the wrong end of it in such a big game, our first proper big game of the season, and it might have went against us, it might not went against us, you know what I mean? It's a grey area still, but I just wish it was a different team rather than us.
Of course, no one wants to be in the wrong end of a decision like that. We says before on the podcast last week that these games often provide dramatic moments, and it'll be remembered for all the wrong reasons because everyone built up to it as a great game between two sides on form. It quickly became, it ruined the red card come on, and it became a different kind of game. And then all of a sudden we have that goal, which in live play everyone thought was a goal anyway. So for the linesman to get it wrong was possibly, don't want to be too harsh, but you expect him to get it right because it looks like he's onside anyway. One replay comes on, everyone can see it's onside. What was your initial reaction? The goal going on and then seeing a replay after. Were you convinced that this was going to be a goal?
I was off my seat shouting and roaring like a madman, 1-0 up, and I turned around and I heard Neville going, "Oh, he's off," and I turned around and I went, "No, usual, don't be getting too excited." And then as soon as I seen the replay, I started cheering again, thinking, "Yes, that's us, we're 1-0 up," and I wasn't even looking. I turned around, they left me a drink, and I turned back around and they were taking a free kick, and I just complete shock. I just hadn't got a clue what happened. The commentators didn't know what happened. Nobody knew. And then I did actually think to myself, well, he must have been offside. The way the angles can be, he might have been leaning or whatever. I thought then, right, well, he must have been until half time. And then it was a disaster after that, to be honest.
Obviously, once it happened, once the game finished, and we will talk about some of the other decisions in the game, but everybody then wanted to hear the VAR audio, and that was released around about this time last night. Everyone had kind of had their say on it before, and everyone was kind of, will the VAR audio come out? And I can see why they were reluctant to release it, but I think the media backlash, obviously if it hadn't been released, there would have been stories of a cover-up, conspiracy theories. They had to kind of release it, and I can see why they didn't want to release it because it just gets worse when you listen to it. What was your initial thoughts on hearing that? I must have watched it 5-6 times before I cast judgment on it because there's so much happening, so many voices, so many things I missed after watching it a few times. And I've kind of analysed it really well now to understand what happened. But what was your initial thoughts?
I genuinely didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on, so I'm not surprised that they were confused. As you say, there were so many people. There was a tech guy talking, and then there was the VAR assistant, and then the VAR who's in charge of it. And then there was a guy over the top of it talking about Ollie, who I'm assuming is the fourth official.
Just one wee thing there. I think that was the initial assumption, the people, because Michael Oliver was the assist or the fourth official. Right. You heard the replay operator saying they stopped the game. Ollie wants to stop the game. Ollie is actually the head of the PGMOL hub, so he's not a referee. He's like the replay operator's boss. He wanted the game to be stopped. So I think that was confusion because if you look at the video, the VAR says Ollie as because that's apparently we heard these nicknames they call each other. That's what they call Michael Oliver as well.
Yep.
And he actually says as they go, what's going on? Because if you think about it, Michael Oliver's the fourth official standing in the box. He wouldn't have seen any replays either. So why he would be asking for the game to stop, I couldn't quite work that out. But after digging deeper, it turned out that there's obviously the VAR, the assistant VAR, and a replay operator that is there to fix lines and do all the tech work for the two in charge of VAR on the day. And it turns out that at the same time, there's obviously somebody else in there watching it all. from a technical point of view, just in case anything does go wrong. And
Apparently he's in an office beside Heathrow Airport. I've heard that
so
since then.
he was looking for the game to be stopped, but again, I mean, it ran on too much, and they didn't want to go back. But I mean, Mitch, you spoke about it initially at the start. You were celebrating, and then you were watching it once, and then before you know it, you sat down and the free kick was taken. Do you think that they rushed this decision? And I mean, I think I seen something like 40 seconds between the ball hitting the back of the net and the game restarting. And as fans, do we have to take some responsibility for this? Because we've been saying ourselves it's taking too long. Do you think they're under so much pressure they rushed it?
Well, you can see that the only thing that I took from it then was what they were saying that happened, even though it sounded ludicrous, actually did happen. They genuinely didn't think that it was given offside on real time. But how you can get it so wrong, I know what you mean. Like be taking time, and everybody's saying, "Oh, it's taking 3-4 minutes." They see if it's a penalty or see if it's whatever. And I've been one of the biggest critics of that. It slows down the game big time. But how you can get this so wrong? Like they're watching the game. They're supposed to be watching the game, so they should know he's given offside. Like that, the flag went up. Diaz stops celebrating and starts walking back up. So if they're watching that, they know he's offside.
Yeah. Do
Do
you
you know what I
think
mean?
this is
So
one
how
thing that'll
can you
come
get it
out of this
wrong?
now from a fan's point of view, that whereas before fans and pundits and players, coaches all wanted decisions to be made quicker, that there'll now be an acceptance that if it does run on a bit longer, as long as we get the right decision now, time is kind of irrelevant. Where do you stand on that?
No, it should be. See what they done. It should be that quick, but only the right decision has to be made. It should be that quick. Is he offside? No, he's onside. That's it.
Yeah,
They've got one job to
it wouldn't
do.
have been one of them situations where they would have had to draw 5 or 6 different lines and slow it down even more, because it was even to the naked eye, it was obvious he was onside.
But then we've seen decisions where I can clearly see in our games that the man's onside and they're still drawing lines. You know, it's that it should be like all these lines thing are nonsense, and a boy's a toe offside, and it's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like,
I mean, you mentioned it there about you can see the flag going up, but I mean, I only noticed this after watching it maybe 5, 6, 7 times. As the goal goes in, the linesman actually says, you see it on the audio, and you can see the who's talking comes up. He actually says, "I'm bringing it back for offside."
offside.
So not only did the flag would have been shown on the TV, which begs the question: were they even watching the game? And then he also says that it's offside. So were they not watching? Were they not listening? I mean, we also heard about that apparently the VAR team were on a trip to the United Arab Emirates only 48 hours before. Do you think this played a factor in the decision?
No, I don't. And I know I was on the comments the other night on about that they were away on a session, the UAE and stuff like. But no, they go as Carragher pointed out the other night, Monday Night Football. No, these boys do Champions League during the week and stuff. So and they'll be back and they'll be traveling all around Europe. I mean, some have been in Kazakhstan, which is bloody sometimes further away than UAE. Do you know what I mean? So no, I don't think that's not an excuse. They shouldn't have any excuses to get something
You would
so
love to be
simple.
a fly. You would love to be a fly on the wall in that room, and maybe having a camera action to see what was going on as they scored that goal. Because for me, it's one thing missing it, the flag going up, but it's another thing missing also the assistant referee's audio saying offside. So they've missed both times. So it begs the question: concentration couldn't have been there. I heard someone saying the Ryder Cup was on at the same time. I don't want to be controversial, but it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we won't see it, but when Howard Webb analyzes it, surely these boys didn't have 100% focus on the game.
No, and that's not an excuse either. Ryder Cup was over at that stage because I was watching that as well, and it was no, forget about that. But no, you have to ask yourself what exactly what you're saying. What were they doing on there? What was going on? Now I know there is in the other foreign countries and Holland and stuff like that. They do have cameras in the rooms because you can see the actual team of 3 or 4, whatever it is. Whenever it goes to a VAR decision, it goes to the actual room itself. So it does beg the question: there is there cameras on there? Because it would be very interesting to see exactly what they're doing, but. Clearly, they were taking a tea break or they were just sitting yakking, and that's clearly happened. Like, there's absolutely no other explanation as to how they can mess this up. So obviously, they just weren't watching the game.
We've got a comment here from Lee. Lee saying, "How could the linesman even throw the flag up in the first place? The whole thing was a joke. What Liverpool have done after Sunday opens up now for all the Premier League teams and fans, even though our clubs and fans are scunnered with us Liverpool fans going on about it since then. Going forward, it can only be a good thing. Same time, good. At the same time,
Same
it could
thing could
cost us in the
cost.
long run. So, I mean, is that a worry? If, obviously there's a long way to go in the season, but if Liverpool were to, lose the league title, finish out in top four, by the odd point or two, obviously there's going to be much more happening. But it's a very easy get out for Liverpool fans, Liverpool coach. They say, well, do you know what? We're robbed of 2 points or at least 1 point at the Spurs Stadium. So it opens up this whole sort of, where do you draw the line? Should Liverpool fans now think we have 31 games, they make these points back? Or do you think they come back and say, well, do you know what? We were robbed there. We're never getting them points back.
No, you just have to let it go. I'm a biggest cynic of the whole lot, but no, it's water under the bridge. You've got to. It's been going on. It's nearly a week now, like coming up, and everybody's still going on. Hopefully, lessons will be learned, but you just have to look. We were a bit on the day. There's no guarantee whether we were 1-0 up. I said to you, if we went 2-0 up, I wouldn't have felt comfortable anyway during the week. You know what I mean? The Spurs did create chances as well, so you don't know how it would have went. It's just that simple, and you just have to go, look, we were a bit. At the end of the day, there's a lot of Liverpool fans who would have turned around, took a draw anyway, you know what I mean, and went to the loss of 2 points regardless. So I think because it's happened so early in the season, it's easy. We can write it off, you know what I mean. If it happened with 4 or 5 games to go and that happened, then it's definitely a different conversation then.
Yeah, I mean, one more thing to come out of this was that the first person to notice the mistake was the replay operator, who is not a referee. He's just there as a technical person. They fix camera angles. He's basically like a skivvy. Whatever the referees and the VARs want to see, he will provide that. And he is the first to say, are you happy with that there? And they say yes. And he says, but this is showing that he's onside, basically. He goes, are you sure you're happy with that? And they're like, yeah, offside. So they were rushing through that. Seemed to be an element of doubt in what they were saying. Kind of like it was lazy. And before, just want to add this in as well. When you see a lot of red cards this season being reviewed, it's rare you see a freeze frame incident first. Again, do you think that was lazy from the VARs? No, I'm trying to grasp what was going on, because I do think that there must have been an element of jet lag. As you say, European games during the week, but they're usually a Tuesday or Wednesday night. And that's maybe in Europe somewhere, France, Spain, Italy. They've literally just come back on the Friday, and they're on the VAR on the Saturday. We don't know how they would have recovered, and the fact that they've just shown that freeze frame incident for the red card and not shown a full replay, they've shown the freeze frame, then a slow motion. The referee didn't get the look at the incident and in full play, and as far as I can see this season, that's not happened before. So again, that was done very quickly. It shows you the incompetence in this game, doesn't it?
Oh, by time, like as soon as I seen, like, and you have great angle from it, no watching from home, we seen straight away what the referee was going towards, and it was just, as you say, the freeze frame. And as soon as I seen it, I went, he's gone. There's absolutely no coming back.
He may as well have been holding a gun to his head, because he was always going to get sent off.
But they're basically, Carragher on about it too Monday night there, and he was saying, they're telling the referee, you have to send him off because this is why, and they're showing just that there. They're saying, go and have a look, you've made a mistake. You know what I mean? So you're allowed to pause and delay games for that. No, you've made a mistake. So why can't they say to the referee, here, we've made a mistake, stop the game? Yeah. There's just so many.
How worrying do you think it is that we've got 2 referees in that studio, and even after the replay operator says 2 or 3 times that something's not right, and I think eventually the assistant VAR says that's not right, Daz, referring to Darren England. So they didn't initially know. If the replay operator hadn't said, I don't think they would have noticed until at least half time, maybe when they review stuff at half time, that they've made a mistake. And then all of a sudden, there's a panic. And I think play had started, and it was about 27 seconds in. And we'll come on to what should have happened then. But how worrying do you think that is, that there's 2 trained professional officials, and they still didn't realize for maybe 30 seconds that they get the decision wrong?
It's absolutely crazy. As you say, the T-boy got it right. You know what I mean? Here to tell him. It's
and the game, I know, and the game had already started. No, there was no kickoff, so no, not even then did they realize we got it wrong. It was crazy.
Right, because it's you can hear the VAR technician. He's going, "Oh, we kick it off." He says, "Oh, they kicked off. This is onside." No, and he's asked them. They're going, "Oh, we're happy, we're happy." And he's asked. He keeps asking them, "You sure?" And then when they realise, you can hear them the foul language coming into it as well. When they do realise, they're going, "Oh no, we," and then they're going, "We can't do nothing." But then you've another boy in saying, "Stop the game." This boy in the PGMOL, he's saying, "Stop the game."
And
So
that's
he's
the next
breaking
thing
his own rules.
And that's the next thing we're going to come on to. There was one solution that people were suggesting that should have happened. I mean, do you believe that obviously we want to stay within the laws of the game? They're there for a reason. Now, you think sometimes they bring balance into this. Referees are hampered by these laws. But we've never seen an incident like this that I can remember. Should this have been the exception to the rule that after that ball goes out for the throw-in, we've had 27 seconds of play, nothing's actually happened other than the ball being kicked forward, a bit of a scramble and play and kicked out for a Spurs throw, that they should have stopped the game, stepped in. We've made a huge error here. We need to restart the game. We Liverpool going 1-0 up, and we'll deal with the consequences after. And I mean, if that had happened, I don't think there would have been too much, if anything, there would have been more of an accommodation towards referees. They would have come out the other side of it. People would have said, look, they made a horrible mistake, but fair play to them. They put their hands up and they've acted promptly. So, I mean, do you definitely believe that they should have stepped in here on this occasion?
Oh, definitely. I don't think there's anybody in the right mind, a football fan of anybody, regardless of who you support. The right thing to do was they stop the game and to correct the decision there and then. As you say, something like, what was it? They says they didn't realise until like 7 seconds later was when they realised, and the ball was just getting played through the midfield.
That was the initial, but I think it was about 27, 30 seconds in before
the ball eventually goes out then for a throw-in to Liverpool, and it takes a wee while for that to happen because the referee actually pauses the game himself, but he obviously he didn't know what happened. But I think the fella
Ollie had obviously, they probably maybe heard his audio, but then we heard him saying we can't. Once he says they stop the game, he says delay the game. We're hearing that the VAR and the assistant VAR saying we can't stop the game. There's nothing we can do about it now. I mean, surely that was the wrong way to go about it because, I mean, obviously, if you're a match day going fan, I think no one could argue. I mean, they could have there's massive screens in that Spurs stadium. They could have put the decision up on the screen. Even if you have to stop the game, bring all the players to the side, explain to the two coaches. There's a PA system on the ground. Ask them to be silent. To explain what's happening. Read out in the PA what has actually happened. And I don't think Spurs fans could have complained once you hear the PA announcer saying what's happened and putting the replay up on the screen. I mean, you can't argue black and white. I mean, it was a goal.
No, definitely. And there was an incident too, remember, where not in this game, but before, where the goal line technology broke, remember, and they had to organise that and get that fixed and sorted, remember, at one of the games before. So they've taken time to do things like that.
Aston Villa and Sheffield United, there was a game where Sheffield United had a goal not given.
That's right, that that all had to be explained and whatever. No, but again, then that was after. But that lesson should have been learned from them. If there's a massive incident as such, well, the game has to be stopped and the decision has to be rectified there and then. So it's not to say that this is it's the first time with the offside decision with VAR, but the goal technology too has also failed. So they should have learned from that and put that in place where, right, if any of this technology fails on the day, it should be reviewed there and then, and the game stopped, the right decisions made. There's no excuse for them. I don't think there is.
Do you believe these officials are hampered by the laws of the game, or do you think that there's no common sense? Because there was, as you say, that incident where Sheffield United had the ball in the net against Aston Villa. Ball was clearly over the line, but the sensors didn't go off due to a technology issue. And after the game actually finished 1-1, and Villa stayed up by the skin of their teeth. And I think if they had dropped another point somewhere else, that could have basically sent Villa down and kept somebody else up. But I think they just about got away with it by the skin of their teeth. But apparently they followed after the game because VAR was in place then as well. I think it was on their second season that they didn't realize they could check the camera for stuff like that. So, I mean, do you think, and there was another incident as well I was looking at today, West Ham, Man United, the ball had gone out of play. It was that big pump down the line and it actually curved on, I think, for a Man United goal. United had only won the game 3-1. But as we know, goals can change games, and David Moyes was furious after that. And again, the VAR didn't believe they could step in for a situation like that. So are they hampered by the laws? And do you think even in certain situations they should use their common sense and go, you know what, if it gets the right incidents, we'll break the law? Because if a referee gets sacked, if a referee had been sacked on Saturday for stepping in and breaking the law, you know the power of social media now. The
Well, then
FA would have
upload.
had a massive backlash, and the boy would have got back on his job. So, I mean, surely they have to show a bit of common sense, use their initiative, step in, and deal with the consequences after.
Definitely. If that decision had been rectified on field at the time and it took 5 minutes, whatever it may have took, them referees and assistants and VAR they would all have been praised for it. So they would have everybody, all the pundits would have been saying, no, they stopped, they done the right thing, even though it was against the rules that they go by. And as you say, and if anybody had been reprimanded in any way, social media would have been an outcry of it. It would have been all over the news, and it wouldn't have lasted for fucking 2 minutes. They would have all been back in their jobs on Monday morning again.
Yeah, Lee saying he agrees with you. The game should have been stopped as soon as the ball went out for the throw-in. And Mickey Max says, "Can we talk about some football?" He's sick hearing about it. I mean, there's a couple of comments coming in here as well, but we're going to get them as well. But I mean, one of the big things now is Liverpool fans want some sort of justice. What consequences do you think should the VAR and the assistant VAR suffer? Now, just in the last few months before we come on, we've heard that it's not being confirmed yet, but it's coming from a very reliable source in the Telegraph that Darren England, who was the VAR, will not referee Liverpool or be a VAR in any game for the rest of the season. Now, as far as I'm seeing it, that doesn't mean he can't come back next season. But we've seen a very similar incident, but maybe not as obvious as this, where last season Arsenal and Brentford played at a 1-1 draw at the Emirates. Brentford scored a goal that was given as onside, but was actually offside. Now, it was a lot more. They shouldn't have got it wrong, but there was a crowded penalty area, and maybe a bit easier where this one was as clear as day. Lee Mason had drawn the wrong line from the wrong defender, indicating that the Brentford player was onside, but actually if he had a drew from the right defender, he was offside. He lost his job over this. Now, apparently there was a good chance he was going to be stepping down at the end of the season, so maybe it was a PR stunt, and it looks that way because should Darren England, I know he's a young referee and he's highly thought of by Howard Webb, should he have not been given the same treatment? Why should he be allowed to continue on after a 1 week break and then come back? And it's fine saying don't referee Liverpool, but he's still going to be refereeing our games. And as far as I can see, I don't think it was done intentionally, Liverpool. It was a human error. It wasn't against, it could have happened all around the Spurs. So I don't think it's an issue that Darren England had with Liverpool. I just think he's made a massive mistake. So, I mean, what do you think the consequences should be?
Well, I don't really understand why he wouldn't be allowed to do Liverpool. That would be asking. I'd be asking more questions on that. I was going, well, why Liverpool? Has he got something against Liverpool? Is there something else? Because that's just ridiculous. That he can go and do Man United, or he can go and do another Spurs game, or he can go. He's still involved in all our games.
The only thing I can think of there is that they don't want. And we're going to come on to this as well. This is where maybe VAR and the referees are maybe thinking, well, I don't think they can guarantee us that something like this isn't going to happen again or more controversial decisions, but they don't want the situation where, say, Liverpool should be awarded a penalty and maybe they don't agree, it's clear and obvious enough that Liverpool fans and the media might bring up, well, this is the same referee that was involved in that goal. So maybe it's one of them. But that doesn't give you much confidence that they believe that these errors are going to be eradicated, because if they are confident that nothing like this will happen again, he shouldn't be banned from doing Liverpool games.
No, because then you could put it shoe in the other foot. Then it could give Liverpool a penalty that's not a penalty, and look at it and go, because maybe he owes them one. That kind of way.
So you think it's the only thing I can think is they're doing this? They stop any potential sort of lashing towards our fans and Liverpool.
Aye, but then you're going to have. What if he gets an hour decision wrong in an hour game? It's like every game in the Premier League is a high-profile game. Yeah. And as the longer the season goes on, coming up to Christmas is mental. Do you know what I mean? And then after Christmas, you have a title run on, and you get relegation battles and everything. And there's no team manager, when they hear who's on the VAR, who's on the hanger, he's a fourth or first. There's nobody going to feel confident because of the errors he's made. Like, would you feel confident
every game's a huge game, bar maybe the last few weeks of the season when it's maybe two shift teams playing each other, whereas maybe Crystal Palace playing Nottingham Forest with 3 games left and they both can't be relegated, then it really isn't no. But as you say, every game leading up to the last few weeks before teams are shift is huge.
Massive. And then, like, sure, the Brentford game in the next day, the decisions on that game, VAR got them wrong again. The penalty, it's
Clear
non-stop.
as
And this
day.
is brought on, they stop all this. And now there's people now doing podcast shows on VAR decisions. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, how
I
these
mean,
people.
it's dominated the news. I mean, it was even on Sky News. It was on Good Morning Britain. I've heard, I work with female nurses who aren't football fans. They're talking about it. I mean, it's dominated the world of every. No, not just football. It's blew up. It's a massive storm. So I mean, we want to be on here talking about great games, great goals, great players. But at the minute, the referees are under serious pressure. And I mean, there's also the issue that some people have with like some Mike Dean saying he wanted the limelight, but this isn't good limelight. This I can imagine what these officials are going through that were involved in this game. So I mean, what do you expect the consequences to be? I mean, we've heard they're not going to be in action this weekend. Do you expect Darren England to be back after the international break and refereeing again?
I think he should be like putting on some sort of course or something. No, if you're caught drink driving and you have to go and do your things again, there's no something like that. If you make an error like that, you're not fit for your job. So these days now, you can't just sack somebody. You have to be seen to be helping them and coaching them and stuff like that before you can actually go down the road of sacking them. Like there's unions and stuff, which they're probably all on. So you can't just turn around and sack them. Like, but he'd probably be suspended with pay and like put on a coaching thing or something where he has to go and do his refereeing stuff.
It could be dropped down the leagues, maybe. Maybe that's an our solution. It could be dropped down the Championship or League One, maybe.
But then I wouldn't want him doing that either. If he can't watch a replay and get it right, how do you mean to do a live game? You know what I
mean? Mackie Mack has saying that Liverpool have publicly humiliated the referees. I don't know what you think of that. What would you say to that?
That man there, he must be smoking someone down in Woodbrook.
I mean, there is one man in charge of this whole operation, and I mean, he has received a lot of plaudits since he's come on because he's been transparent. He's very quick to put his hand up and say, "Look, sorry, we got that wrong." But has there been too many since he's come on? I believe he started here in January. He was given a job on what he'd done in America. He'd done really good work out there. But I mean, he's had the apologies 3 times in the first 7 weeks already. The Onana penalty, which again, people will say it's a subjective decision, but they were forced the apologies because it was so obvious. And I know this decision was factual. But the subjective ones, as you say, the Brentford penalty on Sunday, for me, that should have been an our apology. The goalkeeper kicks the back of his calf, nowhere near the ball. The second one was the Man City goal right on half time. They put them 2-1 up against Fulham, where Akanji was in an offside position, but again deemed to be a subjective one because he doesn't touch the ball, but he actually dangles a leg at it. And again, Howard Webb had to say it should have been disallowed. And then now the third one being the Liverpool, the Diaz goal. I mean, that's 3 in 7 weeks, and that's not counting the other ones that there probably should have been an apologies for. So I mean, he's the one man overseeing this all. There's a lot of talk amongst pundits about Eric Ten Hag and Man United. His players aren't performing. Well, Howard Webb's referees aren't performing. So I mean, should he be taking the brunt of this?
Oh, definitely. You know what I mean? The buck stops on man at the top, and it's him. He's the one who brought in, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. We're definitely going to improve it. It's got absolutely worse since he started. He's actually doing his own bloody shows on Monday Night Football. You know what I mean? It's a man that's seeking limelight in my eyes.
I believe the next one is due to air next week during the international break, so that'll be interesting to see what
that will be. I'll be interested to see what, because I'm sure it's him hand-picking the easy ones that he can get out of, as regards to what audio he uses, because he's not going to be using this one. But I hadn't heard anything of him. Has he come out and apologized himself? He hasn't released a statement. He hasn't, nothing. It's all coming through the PGMOL. But who is actually writing them statements? Is it him?
I would say it's not. I would say it's somebody wording it properly, a lawyer maybe. But anyway, I mean, it was not to say it had gone quiet today, but everyone was gearing up for the European games, and it's one of them situations where with more games the story will die. But Klopp comes out today, press conference, and it goes from one extreme to the other, and he's sort of I want to get my words right because I've watched the press conference back. He hasn't actually demanded a replay. He suggested that he thinks a replay would be the right thing to do. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
No, sometimes I love him, but sometimes I wish he would just be quiet, stop talking nonsense at times, because he does at times. Like, there's no replay. This is a man, right? I couldn't believe when I heard this today. He wants a replay. You can't have a replay, Klopp. You're crying about the fixtures being too much already, and now you want an extra fixture. You know what I mean? It's just, no, mistakes are made. You have to learn from them. You move on. It's a massive, massive error. I don't think it would have cost us a game. It might have cost us a draw, maybe, but no. See, when I hear him talking about stuff like this, sometimes you just wish. No, you handled it really well on Saturday after hang with the questions that you were asked. Just leave it at that and just say, look, the club have released a statement and we don't want to talk about it after that. That's all I had to say instead of shouting for a replay. I just think a replay, it's not going to happen.
James says if it comes down to 1 point at the end of the season, the game should be replayed. What do you think? I mean, if Liverpool are done by 1 point at the end of the season, should this game be replayed? Or do you sort of think that too many games has happened since we're...
Far too many. You could go down to, you could be playing Crystal Palace in a week's time, you go down to 10 men with an or dodgy. No, I can see why it's a red and why it's not a red. And then you go, oh, that done us the game. No, we should have got the end point. It's no.
The only way I think you can go down that road, and I mean, it would be pretty insane if this happened and they didn't want it. But if Liverpool were to won their next 31 games and not won the league, but I think if they did, I mean, it would be nearly impossible that they couldn't win it that way. So do you just kind of think that we've got so much time to make up these points? I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I don't have much confidence in VAR at the minute, so I do think that it will swing again. Liverpool are going to have a game where maybe decisions go their way.
All right, sure. You have to. So what is that? So the game gets replayed, right? Or you start it. Liverpool's 1-up. Liverpool were only down 10 men, not 9. So that means Jota's red card gets rescinded. Is that what that means? Because it should never happened. Like the result. So there's far too much. You can't do that. You can't say, right, we'll play the game in a space in January. Right, that means Jota's back on there. His red card doesn't count. But you know what I mean? So you can't, the game cannot be replayed.
Yeah. Lee saying he would worry if there was a replay and Spurs beat us again. So we'd be
exactly. There's that as well. I think Spurs would be more fired up for us. Fired up for that there. If that was to happen, they had to go and, put out a team again. They play against us. The Spurs would be more fired up. Even when they were there at the weekend. So if you went and get bit them, what does that say? I
mean, let's just say there is a replay, right? And they announced it this week that there is a replay on it, and they want to do it properly because it is one of them incidents that's never happened before. It was a factual error where, I know Arsenal fans will probably say we should have had it against Brentford, but this one was more obvious. And they believed on the day it was like an incident error where they took it from the wrong player. This one, they actually recognised it was offside, or it was onside, but just done it wrong. They said check complete instead of saying award the goal. And they said we're going to organise a replay, but we're going to do it when there's space in the calendar. So as you say, probably January. What do you think the public backlash would be? Do you think that the FA will be under massive pressure from all our teams this season, like Wolves saying, well, we want to replay against Man United, Fulham saying we want the game restarted at half time against Man City where it's 1 each, because that would have took us to it was right on half time, the last kick of the first half. We want to replay from 1 each there. And at the end of the day, Wolves would say the same. We want that penalty taken at the 90th minute when it should have been, and we go and get a draw there. So do you think there would be far too much of that? And then if anything else happens between now and the end of the season, there'd be more teams looking for replays, and we would be playing on the next season if this kept happening.
And you could imagine then if we beat Man City to the league, it'd be 3 points. There would be absolute uproar. Do you know what I mean? It's, as you say, there's too much to go back on. And in a way, I'm glad that this has actually happened. As I said to you at the start of the show, like I'm devastated that it had to be us. But I'm glad it's actually happened because, like, in the last few weeks, if we've seen, there's so many dodgy decisions. This offside crack, there's so many that have been onside or given offside. So this for me isn't the first time this has happened, but it's just been blew up because of the actual way it's happened. These lines and stuff aren't, for me, always accurate either. So no, there's too much to go back, and you would have every team would be putting on complaints and stuff, and with those decisions that can go. So you just have to bury your head in the sand and just crack on with it. And it is going to blow over in a week or two, you know what I mean? But it will eventually blow over and it'll all be forgotten about. And at the end of the season, then it'll be an hour talking point of whatever happens.
I mean, after the press conference today, Sky Sports had a reporter at the press conference, after Klopp's press conference, and says that Liverpool are exploring their options. What do you think this could mean? I mean, we've heard that they don't want a replay, but then Klopp says he would like a replay. We've seen now, and it's going to be announced in the next few hours, that Darren England will be refereeing again, but just not Liverpool this season. We've seen that now when there's a decision to go into VAR, the VAR now has to confirm it with his assistant VAR before confirming it with his referee, so an additional check. What more can Liverpool achieve by this carrying on now? Because I think everyone would accept a replay is going to be impossible. So, I mean, what more would they get out of it if they kept it going on the next few days? And is there an element as well that could distract Liverpool from the Brighton game, which is going to be a difficult game at the weekend?
You see, I don't believe the off-field things like that have anything to do with the team itself. The team will be ready for Brighton at the weekend, regardless of all the noise going off the pitch. I don't think they can achieve anything, Gareth, to tell you the truth. I don't see why they're dragging this out. I genuinely don't. Not unless they're looking to get Paul Tierney disqualified from all Liverpool games, which I would, be buzzing off as well, because your man Darren England, apart from that one at the weekend, he hasn't done nothing on us. Your man Paul Tierney is a bigger problem for us.
Well, apparently Darren England's only starting out. This is a thing.
That was probably had fucking love child or something.
You might be having a very different opinion of him next year if he's done a few
exactly. But no, I just don't understand why they're keeping it going. I don't honestly know what are these other options they're exploring. I don't know. The only option you could explore is the replay, which you're not guaranteed anything. You could end up getting bit 4-0 with Spurs and your goal difference is worse. Do you know what I mean? So I just think, take your hat and move on. This other options, maybe you might be able to tell me, but I have absolutely no idea what they're actually exploring. I have no idea.
No, I'm not sure either, because, I mean, I'm not sure if there's this talking point that they want it sorted so that this doesn't happen again. But I don't think anyone can guarantee that, because as we've seen, it is down to human error. We can stand here and say, oh, we're sorry. We said Howard Webb's apologized for 3 times this season. Eventually that's going to be ruined as well. You can't just keep saying sorry. So, I mean, for me, the only benefit for Liverpool is points, the results that hit. So if they're not going to get that, I'm not sure what options they have. I mean, a lot of talk this week, and Liverpool have said that this isn't just about us. This is about everything. We've seen far too many decisions being wrong. I mean, what do you think this will do, for the future? We've got 31 more game weeks left this season, which is a lot of games. I don't think, no one can guarantee there's not going to be any more mistakes. We're all human. Things will happen. But, I mean, they're under, as they worry now that the referees are under so much pressure, they could overthink things and, don't want to get involved in certain situations because they're afraid they make a mistake. I mean, it's hard to know. With another Premier League weekend coming up this weekend, we've already seen since the Liverpool game mistakes made in the Nottingham Forest Brentford game. I mean, I just don't know where this can go. People are saying maybe scrap VAR, but how can England scrap VAR? But every other major league's using it, and it doesn't seem to be as bad in our leagues. We've seen it work at the World Cup, at the Euros, Champions League. There has been incidents, but not as many. So, I mean, where does this go?
I have absolutely no idea how. I don't understand. These boys, all you have to do is sit for 45 minutes and watch a game. Any decisions, just check over them. That's all you have to do. Then you get a tea break for 15 minutes, and then you work for an hour, 45 minutes. That is all you have to do. It's absolutely mental that they get this wrong. I never wanted it anyway. I just thought if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. I think there will be more mistakes. It can't get any bigger than this mistake. This is the pinnacle of mistakes. You cannot. I was trying to think all week, what else could you get wrong? What would be worse than this? And I can't think of any.
Unless somebody punches the ball into the net with his hand, and that's something like that. That's the only thing I can think of. Something like a hand of God.
That would be, again, you would probably think, that's going to be so obvious that you couldn't miss it. But how obvious was it? I know. But this is that. A goal being disallowed for being a genuine goal is as big as I think is as big as it can get. So I genuinely don't think. I think, as you say now, they might, all the wee simple decisions, it could prolong the actual watching of it and doing it. I think they might, as you say, they mightn't send the referee over the screen when they should. You know what I mean? They've already been hammered for that, but the boy go, what do I do? And as you say, second guessing himself, the referee might feel that he's from what he's watching, he might be forced on. You know, a referee, you've seen referees and all these go for, look at the incident online and go, not going to stick with me as in the decision. But now, as you've seen with the Curtis Jones one, they're being, no, I have to give that, because they're being told. So mentally, it'll affect the referees and the VAR, you know, so which will lead to more wrong decisions. But as a decision as big as what happened on Saturday, I don't think it gets much bigger than that.
Yeah, Dean, Liverpool fans saying, personally, I think a statement from the PGMOL to confirm they were wrong was enough, and they released the audio. The audio was enough and clear to hear that they ignored instructions or they weren't communicating with each other. It's a usual VAR shambles. I mean, that's a point that's gone around this week quite a lot. As the apology enough? We've seen so many apologies. When will that run out? I mean, how many more mistakes can they be allowed to get away with? I don't think they're obviously intentionally not out to get decisions wrong, because eventually it will lead to people losing jobs. But is it just an ability issue? Are the referees not good enough? You know, are they not trained properly in the technology? Because, I mean, I've been watching some of these decisions. I mean, the Onana one, for example, the penalty at the start of the season, one replay, I says penalty. I'm not a professional referee, but I was able to see it was a penalty. So, I mean, it's hard to understand, you know, how it's going wrong so badly, because they aren't, that decision on Saturday, the Onana penalty, they're not difficult decisions to get right.
No, and like the thing that I keep thinking about is putting ex-footballers, ex-managers, sticking them on, getting them on and around it. They know football better. Like some of these boys haven't played football before; they're just referees. Not you, man. But that's the only reason I could see for trying to make it better. They're clearly not, like we've already spoke about Howard Webb. He's not doing his job right. You know what I mean?
Do you think there's a massive trust issue now that when and this isn't just for fans, even for coaches and players as well on the pitch, if there's an offside this weekend, which there will be again, tight offside, and it's going around the ground, there's going to be that element of, is it right? Because we've seen them get that one so wrong. Are players going to accept the decision? You know, are we going to see more yellow cards for players maybe giving dissent to referees because they don't agree with the decision? I mean, for me, that was a straw broke a camel's back. I will not be confident this weekend watching the Luton Spurs game if there's an offside that's tight, or even if there's a yard on it, if there's a penalty that's a stone wall, and thinking they're going to get this right. I'll not be convinced, and I'm sure Liverpool fans will definitely not be convinced. So, I mean, how do you think they can restore this trust and fans that's clearly been broken now?
I genuinely don't think you can. I think it ended at the weekend. For me, it definitely ended at the weekend. As you say, see when VAR was brought on and a goal was scored, you were jumping up and down. Next thing, check, offside. It's completely ruined it for a football fan aspect of it. Now, as you see a man getting brought down the box. Penalty, we're getting a penalty. No, you're not. And it's still, you're looking at it and it's clear as day. Like, we know more about football and these decisions than these boys making them, in these studios or wherever they are. It's absolutely killed it from a football fan aspect. And I, as you say, I'll be watching the Liverpool and Brighton match, watching it through my fingers, going, oh, Jesus, no, what's going to go wrong here? Even the slightest, when players dive in the box, they're going to be given a penalty. No, against you, and they're diving, you just don't know what's going to happen next, because there is no clear law or clear running of the game where you go, right, this is what happens when that happens.
Do you think the clear and obvious thing needs to be taken out of the law? Because we've seen decisions this season where, we all think it's a penalty, but we hear Denmark Gallagher on a Monday saying the reason it wasn't given is because it wasn't clear and obvious enough to overturn the original decision. Do you think that has to be taken out and we should be looking at whether it's a foul or not?
Sure. We look at it and go, sure, it is clear and obvious. It's there. So it's a matter of opinions again. There's no set thing. He says it's not clear and obvious. We say it is. So there you go again. There's complete confusion again, that nobody's on the right page. Like, rules in football, everybody should know them. Like, we still don't know what offside is. Do you know what I mean? We're sitting on what's offside.
There's also confusion around the handball rule too, because it's changed so much in the last 2 or 3 years. Nobody knows what I think it was what do you call it? Steve Cooper said after the Nottingham Forest game, I don't even know what handball is anymore.
No, nobody does, because if you're a yard away or 2 yards away, but in your body position and it's too close or it's not too close, but if it hits off your arm, deflects, it's going on target and it goes wide, it should be a penalty. Should it not?
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
It's been a good show. So many people interacting. We're going to finish off with a solution that has been suggested by fans, and we've heard pundits say it, Jamie Carragher Monday night, should the FA now be considering, I know it's probably not possible this season, but for next season, introducing foreign referees to officiate in the Premier League, because might say they want to be in their own country, but if that was the case, players wouldn't come to England, they play. Everybody wants to be involved in the Premier League. Doesn't matter if you're a coach, player, or even a referee. I'm sure they would jump at the chance they referee. I also think as well it would eradicate all that sort of, we've heard on the VAR, Brooksy, Stewardy, Ollie, all these slang terms, because they're obviously all friends. We'd be seeing referees giving decisions based on merit, and not maybe we heard Mike Dean saying he didn't want to send Anthony Taylor over to the monitor because he'd had a difficult game and he's a mid. Might have been taken slightly out of context, but his emotions were still with Anthony, thinking, you know what, they had a tough game, he doesn't need to go over and look at that. And they ended up getting the decision wrong. Spurs score from the corner and it blows up in his face. So, I mean, do you think this is one suggestion that could help? Obviously, we don't know if, we only see one or two Spanish or Italian, French referees. That's not to say all, having 20 of them would be great. But if we had more foreign referees working with some of the English referees, there wouldn't be the same kind of leniency towards maybe not pulling a mistake up. So, do you think this is something that they should be looking at now for next season?
I don't know. I don't know. And I'll tell you why I don't know. Is all these different leagues, there's different rules.
Yeah.
There's a handball that you'd be given in the Premier League. It's not given in the Champions League, or it's not given in Italy. It's not given in Spain. So they're coming in with all these different. So I think it would cause complete confusion. I think there would be more mistakes than what there is now. That's just my opinion and what I would worry about it. But what I would suggest is see all this, yes, Daz and this here, all this as if they're mid sitting around a pub drinking their nicknames. How unprofessional is that? Is first and foremost. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
I think that is one thing that I think we will see now changing. I really do think that is one thing that they're going to have to stamp out, because it does give you that friends vibe as well. So as you said, it should be, look, this is a professional environment. It should be, Simon, look, we need you to go and look at the screen. It shouldn't be Brooksy. Hey, what's the story here? Go over and look at it. It shouldn't be. This is professional sport. People lose their jobs based on these decisions, as we've seen. Managers getting sacked left, right, and centre. So it's got to be something that's looked at. I mean, for me, that is one suggestion that's been made. I'm going to finish off with the one I think that we really need to do, and this starts from the bottom, and the DFA need to start looking at, as there's a massive, massive tolerance in grassroots football. Referees are being abused by players, coaches, and parents. And this is where you're seeing young referees walk away. Now, some of the referees we're seeing in England are selected based on their ability, but how many of the good ones are walking away? And will give you a massive pool to choose from if you have more. So, is this something that the FA need to invest? I mean, I seen a video last week of a parent running after a linesman under the car park where he was abusing him, trying to get at him, and the assistant has tried to get away for he's fearing to be assaulted. So, I mean, is this something that obviously as football fans we need to be more accustomed to? I mean, I was refereeing at a memorial tournament on Saturday and Sunday for Sean O'Kane, and I don't want to name any names or clubs, but there was one coach in particular gave me an absolute mouthful after the game, and it wasn't nice. So this is the kind of stuff that can put people off. Now, I've got thick skin, so I'm fine, but not everyone's like me. So is this something that needs to be stamped out in order to avoid losing referees? Because I'm sure we've lost some top referees because of this.
I would say so, but it's the other question is how do you stop it? You ban them from. You can't come to a local park to watch a match. It's just not going to happen. Who's going to keep these people out? You know what I mean? It's an impossible task. As you're saying, like, people are walking away from it. Like, I mind watching the Bronco Bradley and the abuse that them boys got. Like, I would have went, I'm not coming up here tomorrow night to do this again. You know what I mean? Like, it is absolutely brutal. And when I'm talking about abuse, I mean your family getting abused. Like,
everybody can take a wee bit, ref, you've had a mare, stuff like that's fine. But where it becomes physical and very personal, that oversteps it. And I experienced that on Saturday and Sunday. So I mean, a lot of people were sort of going around going, that's not right. But that coach walked away. I'm sure when he realized he probably got it wrong. But that's the kind of stuff that is putting referees out of jobs, and they're walking away because they're feared. So I think this is something the FA need to try and look at, because if we had a bigger pool of referees to choose from, and I think as well there has to be some sort of element now of we see it in the rugby. A lot of ex-pros are going on the refereeing. We're not seeing any ex-pros going on the refereeing. So in football, so whereas in the rugby, they all know the rules. There's as well. You can imagine if Steven Gerrard. I'm not saying he's just an example I can think of because you're a big Steven Gerrard fan here. If he was refereeing a game on a Saturday, obviously he can't referee Liverpool, Everton, Man United, but if he's refereeing Spurs against Newcastle, there's a decision in the game. Everybody knows who Steven Gerrard is. They're not going to disrespect him. He's got that automatic respect. It's the same in the rugby. They have all this respect for the referees because they know who they are. They know the rules inside out, and they'll also as well understand things from a playing side point of view. I don't think a lot of these referees played football or played at a top level, and therefore they can't maybe understand what happens on a football pitch, because I think Danny Murphy said today on the radio, I would love to go into the VAR room, but we've been told we're not allowed them. So that is something that needs to be looked at as well.
Like you could, I don't see any reason why an ex-player couldn't sit down or be employed by the PGMOL, to be like sit down and even oversee things, and not just as a start-off point, maybe going, how'd you get that decision? How'd you get that decision? Talking about it and whatever. Just sitting down with them and telling them, like, from a player's perspective, this would be like this here, a manager's perspective, how can you give that, or how can you, just different. Like they're like robots. They're under Howard Webb's control, and he's got nothing right since he's come on. So I just don't see it. And like an on-field referee here is probably the hardest job, one of the hardest jobs in the world. Like, do you know what I mean? Having to deal with 22 footballers on a pitch, 70,000 people in a stadium, giving you dogs abuse and trying to concentrate in the game. You're allowed to get decisions wrong. I don't care. And that's why the human error thing with me on a pitch, 100%, I can go, right, you got it wrong, fair enough. I probably wouldn't have got it right either. But for a boy sitting watching a TV, this is where it comes on. This is where it's completely different. So if you're a man, Darren Ingle, now who can't get a decision right while watching a replay on TV and listening and watching it live, they jump on there and they referee somebody next weekend. The players aren't going to think straight away, here, we've got this tube here. You know what I mean? Automatically, he's lost the respect of the players on the pitch.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Mates, thanks for coming on for the special episode of the podcast. We aren't staying on very long tonight because we have so much coming up on the channel. But mates, thanks for coming on. I'm going to sit down now and watch Newcastle PSG. I'm saying it's going to be a cracker.
Watch too.
How do you see that going before we go?
I think Newcastle's going to win. It might sound crazy, but I just think St James's Park will be rocking, and I think they just might script a wee one.
Definitely. Enjoy the game. Enjoy Liverpool against Julian St Gilles tomorrow night. Get ready for Brighton on Sunday. Thanks for coming on again, good man.
No bother much. See you later.